Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult, video number 322, my thoughts on Anthroposophy and Rudolf Steiner, of course, one of the initial people that was big in Theosophy, later schismed off of that and forms his own movement. Now, let's first compare Theosophy to Anthroposophy. I prefer the latter. I think that Rudolf Steiner's particular path is more puristic, more utilitarian, and more pragmatic than some of the spooky woo stuff that Theosophy stubbornly clung to, like the mediumship side of the occult as a topic. Even after it had been largely dispelled, it continues to be spoken of, written about, taken as though it has validity, and explored. Steiner deviates from this. Now, Steiner himself is a fascinating character, the author of some hundreds of books, actually. Technically speaking, though, the majority of his material was oratory. Back then, in the 19th and early 20th centuries, when he was predominantly active, what would happen is people would give lectures and people would show up and listen to the lectures. It was a form of entertainment. It's sort of like TV would be for the last generation or streaming would be now. There was no TV, there was no YouTube or no TikTok or anything. You didn't have radio yet, and so people would go in person and they would have debates, they would give speeches, oratory and stuff, and Steiner's students would transcribe them and then translate them into English. Of course, he was delivering them predominantly in German, and so we have a huge amount of literature. Ahrimanic Deception, Occult Significance of Blood, some of these other works, hundreds of them. In fact, some of them I don't believe even have a translation yet. I think that there's literally, I believe, ongoing work by Steiner's students at this point to transcribe everything. The list of literature is vast. His greatest contributions, I think, to the occult, beyond the writing, the Waldorf schools, there are, I think, over 1,000 of them still, so a bit more staying power than Theosophy's core that goes off with Besant. Most of that, outside of Adyar, has disappeared. There's not a huge U.S. presence. Rudolf Steiner's Waldorf system is all over the place. So tens of thousands of kids are in this system of alternative schooling. It's based partially on nature studies. Instead of sitting in a classroom, you're getting exercise, you're learning science, you're learning everything you can. Lectures out in the woods and stuff, a big focus on farming, agriculture, especially various organic types, hugelkultur done, experiments I'm sure they do with terra preta at this point, stuff like that. Honestly, if I had to send a potential future kid to an actual brick and mortar school instead of homeschooling, it would probably be a Waldorf school. They are superior to any public school system that's under any government civic edifice probably anywhere in the world. Therefore, it's more utilitarian. You're teaching thousands and thousands of people generation after generation with this system that hasn't gone anywhere because it's still in full use today. And also focuses on alternative lifestyles. Also, there's a focus, this gets criticism, there's still a focus on the concept of racial evolution. That is that the various groups of people are advancing over time, which I think is true, although in some ways we seem to be devolving at the moment towards leftoidism, a throwback to the 17th century mainly, or back to feudalism, a leftoid system, not a libertarian one. just so that we're aware of that. Individuals out there who saw the last debate that I did. Anyway, with Anthroposophy, you're talking about a system, again, it's alternative, it's utilitarian. Rudolf Steiner was sort of into these things. That would be the one criticism that a lot of people have, but I mean, I'm not going to levy criticism about it because of course it is true. But the idea that it is somehow racist or wrong, it's bad. You're teaching people that the human race can improve. That's basically what it boils down to. Of course, if you want to enslave people, you don't want the human race to get better. That's why I find it funny, all of the former alt-righters that have gone off into Biden la-la land. Methinks that there's a reason that they like a complete goddamn loser. Not an anthroposophist, I'm assuming. But again, I consider it superior to Theosophy. Rudolf Steiner I consider to be more, technically, I mean in the lineage sense, more of the legitimate leader of the whole corpus there, post-Blavatsky, than Besant could ever be. And I don't have a problem with Besant. Before any, Theosophists out there bite my head off, I don't have a problem with that or with Besant. I just think that the utilitarian value of the kind of things that Rudolf Steiner entered into have certainly, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, have more lasting power, have probably enlightened more people, certainly are more focused on things that have a tangible value. If you're talking about wanting to advance the human race and, we need to move towards more vegetarianism and social reform and sobriety and meditation, well, that's sort of what the Waldorf schools are doing, right? You should be adding your manpower to the Anthroposophists, I think, at some point, because again, what works should be replicated. Isn't there any religion higher than truth? Yeah, I suppose that there are some people that they get partisan, they get sectarian. Actually, there are some sectarian theosophists, which is kind of strange because it's self-refuting. It's kind of a catch-22 situation when you think about it. It's contradiction in terms to be a theosophist and also a sectarian, considering what theosophy really means. Anthroposophy does not seem to suffer from this problem. And Steiner involved himself in other things, but mainly it was oratory, developing this alternative education system, which at the time was massively progressive. By the way, you would have used that term, decades ago. Even now, again, I think is superior. The sort of people that are going to come from a Waldorf school are going to be more capable than someone who comes from the average public educational edifice in the entire Western world. They'll also presumably be healthier. If you're doing the organic farming vegetarianism thing and getting several hours of exercise every day, which is what kids should be getting, that's going to be way better than sending them to a place where they have to sit there for 2 hours listening as a teacher drones on and on in a real boring manner. That's about all. Peace out.